A warm welcome to all our viewers to another episode in the series Natural Medicine. We want to talk to you about the pineal gland today, about this master gland. What are the tasks of the pineal gland, and does it really have that many characteristics and duties that have to be mastered or not? That's the topic of this episode that I want to discuss with an expert, a health expert. A warm welcome, dear Peer Zabergs. Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. Now, I spluttered 2-3 times. That happens when going live. But please explain to me, where is the pineal gland? The pineal gland is at the end, on top of the spine. The particularity of the pineal gland is that it's made from the same substance as the roof of the mouth. It's not brain tissue, but the same tissue as the roof of the mouth. And that's why it's not inside the brain, but just outside, immediately adjacent. So it's not protected by the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier says that invaders can't enter. No bacteria, viruses from outside. And the body's chemical wars from the own immune system can't enter either. That's why a layer of fat was made to enclose it, where only certain things can pass. And the pineal gland is outside, and that's why it's very susceptible to pesticides, fungicides, or possible toxins, and it stores it in the membrane. And the pineal gland sits, as I said, on top of the spine. I also heard many spiritual things about the pineal gland. That it is apparently the connection to the cloud, maybe. I don't know. But what does the academic medicine think about the pineal gland, and what task does it have according to that? Oh, for sure. Well, according to the academic medicine, it's in charge of the control of releasing serotonin. Then, the conversion of serotonin to melatonin. Serotonin is the day hormone, melatonin is the night hormone. The academic medicine surely knows that the pineal gland is basically the initial control system for the microbiome, the intestinal flora. It also forms DMT, and that's a substance, as you said, that is connected with intuition and the external perception. It's dimethyltryptamine. I won't repeat this. It's DMT. These are the most important things about the pineal gland. It's also called the day-night rhythm control. It's the circadian rhythm. If I have jet lag, the circadian rhythm is out of control, or we need time for it to adjust. Wow, that is a big job. Already only the melatonin and serotonin production, and you also connect it to the bowel. Serotonin is also produced in the bowel, but the release is controlled by it, yeah. And the pineal gland is the master gland, as it is basically the conductor of all the other glands, basically the boss. Command central. It is the command center of all glands. The tower. And even though it's not very big, it's estimated to be the size of a bean or a pea. And it's also shrinking a lot in a healthy 10-year-old. Why is it shrinking? I'll tell you in a bit. The pineal gland is 10 times bigger than in an adult in our environmental conditions. And even though the gland is so small, you can also see the importance of its function because it's the organ with the second highest blood flow after the kidney. The pineal gland. The pineal gland. I've never really read about it. Maybe I'm the last person in Switzerland who doesn't know about it. So tell me more about it. The pineal gland, as I said, has immensely important tasks. That's why it has such a high blood flow. But there is a huge problem today with all this environmental contamination because, as I said, the pineal gland is not protected by the blood-brain barrier. So the toxins that enter the body also get to the pineal gland, and it's stored there. What can cause inflammation? First of all, there is aluminium. There are many deodorants that contain aluminium. We use aluminium foil, aluminium dishes. It's a preservative in different drugs. So if I take medication and it's covered in aluminium foil, the pill is already absorbing parts out of the aluminium. It's really not funny. Aluminium and also fluoride. I know you had some dentists here before that also confirmed it. Fluoride is a disaster. I really have to say that. I still know schools today where, when I was a child and very small, which was more than 50 years ago, I used to get iodine and fluoride tablets to prevent cavities. People didn't know it back then. Today we know it, that fluoride is in the rankings of the most poisonous substances for humans. Number 16, way before arsenic. And fluoride, for example, I'm quite often in Spain and I live in Mallorca. I think last week or the week before I was in 5 pharmacies. In none of them I could find toothpaste without fluoride. And many toothpastes advertise it specifically with fluoride. It's a complete disaster. It's a complete failure of politics. And this fluoride gets collected in the pineal gland. And then hydrocarbons are added. Titanium is maybe added. All these pesticides, fungicides, and maybe I have a lot of stress. Then cortisol's added, which will cause the following. The membrane gets inflamed. Then the body has to react to stop the inflammation, to minimize the damage. What does it do? It sends calcium there and calcifies, scales, so to speak, as a protection to end the inflammation in the pineal gland. That's why we've calcified pineal glands. It's a phenomenon today, which is shockingly high. And there is, hang on, is this what's causing the shrinking? It is parallel. At the same time, it's causing the shrinking and causes a dysfunction of the pineal gland. So that means I have fewer sleeping opportunities and fewer waking opportunities. Less opportunities, it's doing a job. Also the conductor job for the other glands, not that well anymore. Is that the reason why many people today suffer from sleeplessness? Sure, and they also take tons of stress to bed with them. And if I take stress to bed, it starts already with just watching TV in the evening. I need a lot of melatonin. Melatonin produces, below the melatonin, there's another hormone which is produced. It's called arginine vasocytosine, and that's the actual sleep hormone. I need melatonin for it. If I go to bed being stressed, I have a high level of cortisol in my blood. That means at the same time a decrease of melatonin, because in evolution it was like this. When people went to sleep in the forest, and it was scary, there was something scary, they couldn't sleep deeply. And that means they had a high level of cortisol in the blood. The system adapted. They were not allowed to sleep deeply. They had to wake up at the tiniest noise. The system stayed with us. So a high level of cortisol, that means a low level of melatonin. No regenerative deep sleep, no good call renewal. So really important, if we go to bed, we can't be stressed. We have to leave the day behind. We need energy to produce enough melatonin. So what do we do? What do we do with this calcified pineal gland that you mentioned? Can we get rid of this layer of scale? And by the way, a few other side effects of a calcified pineal gland. There are new scientific studies that show 100% of patients with MS have a calcified pineal gland. 100%, without exception. And the correlation of new cancer disease and a calcified pineal gland is 100% parallel. I'll ask my question again then. How can we clean our calcified pineal gland? Is it possible? It is possible. We have a few tricks. If I'm allowed to speak about supplements, we have, for example, vitamin K2. It's a fantastic decalcifier. K2 is also used by our body to store calcium in our bones so that the calcium doesn't accumulate as plaque in the arteries. That's why we need K2 and potassium, but K2 decalcifies things. Then I surely need chlorella, spirulina. These are very good to also get rid of the toxification. Coconut oil is also recommended. Tamarind is also recommended. There's a small portfolio of measures that I can do instantly. On the other hand, I have to add energy to the pineal gland and bring it back into harmony. For example, I have a system in my cell energy calendar. It's called Schumann 3D system, and it's only based on the Schumann resonance. Schumann resonance is the most important biological frequency there is. It's the background oscillation of our life, and the pineal gland has exactly this frequency as a natural frequency. So if I bring these mechanical oscillations into the pineal gland, I bring the pineal gland back in harmony and supply it with energy because I increase the amplitude of the natural frequency by adding another oscillation. I want to follow up here. We know from the frequency therapy and from academic medicine, each organ has a frequency. And the pineal gland's natural frequency is the Schumann resonance, the 7.83, and it's also a constant. It gets calculated. There are harmonic waves that differ sometimes, but this is a constant wave. It gets calculated. And if I add this 7.83 onto the pineal gland, then it will help its oscillation. I can do this with the Schumann 3D platter. Why? Because it has a three-dimensional right spinning oscillation. And now we also need to know the pineal gland is not just there completely dry, but it lies in, it's called ventricle. The third ventricle is hollow, but it's filled with a watery fluid, and that is the solution to it. Then I'll bring the pineal gland automatically in the right oscillation because the water oscillates in that direction. And the pineal gland has another particularity, and that is piezoelectricity. That means it can convert the pressure into electrical energy. Now, we have to ask, how can I put pressure on the pineal gland? It's up here. Well, there is, for example, a special breathing technique. Through a special breathing technique, I can push the spinal fluid in the spinal cord upwards, and by this, I can create electricity in the pineal gland. I can also create this through swirls with the Schumann 3D system. And there's another, even simpler way, which is using this antenna. If I use this antenna, I can bring energy into the pineal gland to reactivate the pineal gland. And that is the idea. Bless you. That's the ideal point of irradiation in the back, below the skull cap, where we have a small dent. And in this small dent, I reach the motoric center, the cerebellum, right behind. You do that with this antenna, bring energy to the cell, right? I bring energy into the pineal gland. And on top of this, I convert the water in this third ventricle that is surrounding the pineal gland into hexagonal water. I can discharge toxins. It's an antioxidant, it's anti-inflammatory. So with this I can maximize the support of the decalcification. I just need to bring this antenna to that point in the back. And just with this antenna, the, decalcification, it's happening right there. It is supported. I still have to take K2 and Chlorella spirulina on top of that. And this Schumann resonance, and with Schumann, it would be, so to speak, the master project for the decalcification of the pineal gland and the reactivation of the pineal gland. And you said before, it's like spiritual abilities. You get your intuition through the pineal gland. The pineal gland has calcites, which are basically antennas for electromagnetic waves. There is the brain membrane, and basically also the brain has magnetite crystals. But the pineal gland has even more antennas. And the pineal gland was used to be called the Eye of Horus. So basically, we know the intuition or the inspiration, the connection to the universe or to other forces is working through the pineal gland. That's been known for thousands of years. So everyone who wants to follow their intuition a bit more or wants to follow their spirituality would be advised to get the pineal gland cleaned and put in oscillation so that it's producing enough energy, 100%, and then it's like that. I'll have a fantastic day-night rhythm. I have enough serotonin, enough melatonin for cell renewal, cell regeneration, plus I also generate the DMT. This one is also called the spirit molecule. It gives me new skills of inspiration, intuition. And for that I need a sound pineal gland. And by the way, DMT is not only in the pineal gland, there's also, or maybe some people have heard this already, ayahuasca cures. Ayahuasca's main component is DMT. But we can also produce it ourselves in the pineal gland, so I don't need any cures. I learned in the last 15 minutes how significant the pineal gland is. Now, I want to ask the question a bit differently. How do I notice that my pineal gland is not fully functioning? By having problems sleeping? I'll surely have problems sleeping, sleeplessness, bad regeneration, getting tired very quickly, and also notice that I have only little intuition. If I'm fine and everything is well and in order, I have lots of inspiration. I'll have many different ideas to a certain business topic, for example. But sooner or later, this will decrease. Can I have a look at the experiment again? Because it is quite... I'm putting energy where it's needed. And if the pineal gland is, for example, damaged or inflamed, then it has a low electrical cell membrane voltage. So I have to support it so that the electrical cell membrane voltage goes back to where it should be, at least 70 millivolts. There is another interesting aspect about the electrical cell membrane voltage. Academic medicine always says, what is cancer? How does cancer develop? It's always said it is a mutation of cells. Now, that might be true later on, but at the starting point, it's not correct, because If cancer was the mutation of cells, then theoretically every organ, which develops from billions and trillions of cells, would have to get cancer. But it's not like that. There is, for example, no heart cancer. Why is there no heart cancer? Because the heart is an electric organ with a high electrical cell membrane voltage. If the electrical cell membrane voltage drops, the heart would stop beating. So the heart is protected by the high electrical cell membrane voltage. That's the reason. And it's the same situation for our nerve cells. There's no nerve cell cancer. It's an electric organ where an electric current flows, where there is high electric cell membrane voltage. What do we do with the antenna? We take this electrical cell membrane voltage that's so good for the heart and bring it to other cells so that they can go back to doing their job. And if the cell is fighting, then something else happens. Then it activates the mitochondria. They're the energy centers of cells. So it creates heat in the cell. And what do I have then? Then I created an artificial fever. And what does nature use fever for? To kill viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites, spores, and everything else. So, if I have an inflammation, I can activate the mitochondria locally. A lot of energy is produced, and the inflammation can be fought. At the same time, the hexagonal water, which is also being created, also is anti-inflammatory. So this also reduces inflammation, and I discharge toxins, which are mostly the cause of inflammation. The same in the pineal gland, so I can discharge toxins. I can discharge the fluoride, aluminium, titanium. Hydrocarbons can also be discharged by using the situation as the master project. It's all based on the Tesla technology, isn't it? Did Tesla know what he made there? Tesla was a true genius with visions for the future. But I mean, there was no fluoride back then, no aluminium for under the armpits or who knows what. But they knew back then they could already test electrical cell membrane voltage, and there was a huge history of these high-frequency devices, even though they had a few disadvantages. These are not mentioned, but they had many advantages, cured many cases of cancer. They almost didn't find cancer patients to heal them, because the cancer cells, for example, have an electrical cell membrane voltage of 15 millivolts. That's it, this you have to know. Instead of minus 80, between minus 70 and minus 80, they only had minus 15. And basically that was the solution already. In the USA there was a similar device by Royal Raymond Rife, based on a similar technology. This was tested. He healed 16 cancer patients in 2 months. It was a little story in the New York Times or wherever. And that was the last picture that was seen of him. Unfortunately, he died in a car accident. So you just mentioned a disease where I just want to say, dear viewers, please note, if there is someone who is at the moment suffering from cancer, please also do talk to your doctor, maybe to test this, to try this as a supporting therapy. If the electricity in the cell, as he just said, increases from minus 15, then the cell might be capable, again, to support in the healing process. So please talk to a doctor of your choice that you trust, or speak to an expert, a holistic practitioner who maybe is already experienced in the area of Tesla technology, to use this as a different point of view. I had to give this advice. Sure, that is it. We can only support. Everything I do in my cell energy center is nothing else than basically supporting the body in the self-regulation. The body is amazing. It's such a genius system, but there is a lot of external contamination, and there are many toxins. There are electric smog, there's stress, way too much cortisol, too much adrenaline in my blood. I'm stressed. I have a lot of adrenaline in my blood. What does that mean? It stops the immune system. If you compare it to 100 years ago, there are so many new factors now. It can't be healthy, can it? It can't be healthy. I also have to look at the food. I need more protein-based food, many oils and fats, few carbohydrates, little sugar, because our body is not used to it from evolution. So I also have to look there, that I'll take the right decisions. But the most essential point is the water. I need to have clean water as a means of transport and solvent. It shouldn't have more than 40 parts per million. 40 parts per million means particles per 1 million of water molecules. Ideally, I'll have pure water with organic minerals and energized. with new information. There is a portfolio of information on it which will then be saved by the water with the memory effect, which communicates with the cell. Basically, this antenna speaks the language of the body and brings it in the position of self-regulation. Self-regulation means activating the self-healing process. We can only support this. Medical practitioners have other opportunities, but I think it would be a good idea if they used this technology to support the things that they already do so well. I had to get an implant not long ago, and we all know this after 2 hours. The effect of the injection decreases, and then I tested it. I used this for half an hour, and the pulsing of the implant was gone. It also didn't come back. I had no more pain. I didn't take any medication, and after 48 hours, the stitches could be taken out. The healing of the wound was completed, so that just means the inflamed location, this open wound at the jaw, the cell membrane capacity was increased. It had more energy, the blood flow was better. I created an artificial fever, so the healing took place much faster. With these fantastic conditions, it really is like that the cell membrane voltage increases. I have an artificial fever against viruses. In hexagonal circumstances and milius, H2O is also produced by the body to fight any germs that might occur. And of course, we have thinner blood with the optimum flow rate, so we have the best oxygen supply. I created all the factors to speed up the healing process, and this case that you had, I have had plenty of times in my cell energy centre with people who came before tooth treatments or tooth surgeries, and immediately after there was basically no swelling. A healing process where the doctors asked, "What did you do there?" Very interesting. I also gave this stick to a lady last week who came to the studio, and she said she couldn't lift her arms. And then she used this for half an hour. She was 82, her husband 87. Her husband treated her for half an hour, and after that she could lift her arms and couldn't stop laughing. So it seems to create many miracles. I also know a golf player. It was the same phenomenon. He was a golf pro, and he played a tournament, and I was there with a booth. I was invited, and he had a huge inflammation for 2 months in his shoulder joint. We used this for 45 minutes, and after that he said he had no more pain. I just said to him, he has to keep going. It's not that this is a miracle. You just have to keep going, doing this, to do this sustainably. Now, we got a bit off course. From the pineal gland, we reached inflammations. But based on inflammation of the pineal gland, I have to eliminate the inflammation of the pineal gland, and there's no better method, at least in my opinion. I know already I can see the comments on YouTube. Why do you stop here? When it's so interesting, it's just because, dear viewers, our show is only 25 minutes, and then that's it, and a new topic awaits you. Okay, where can I get more information for all the people who don't want to stop here? On quintisana.ch on the website. I'm also available if the people send mails to give them more information. There is so much more to say, but the time here is limited. Thank you so much, dear Peter. Thank you for being here today. Let's clink glasses because it's my birthday today, and also all the best to you, dear viewers. We're always happy to present to you these great episodes, and qualified experts like you are, Pierre. Thank you. Thank you. All the best. See you next time, and cheers.